The sky changed on a quiet Tuesday morning. There were no storms, no warnings, just a deep hum that made windows shake and dogs bark. Above Eastern Europe, a long crack opened in the air, like a tear in the fabric of the world. From it, ships came out, huge, dark, and shaped like curved blades. They moved slowly, silently, taking their place in the sky. These were the Vefari. They had traveled far, watching Earth for over 300 years. They studied humans, how they fought, how they talked, how they lived. They ran thousands of war games in their minds. They believed they knew everything. They thought Earth would fall in days, maybe hours. On their main ship, high above the clouds, their leader watched the blue planet below. He felt calm. This was the moment they had trained for. Soon, all would bow. But on the ground, people did not panic. Not like the Vethari expected. In a small town, a farmer looked up, took a sip of coffee, and said, "Well, that's new." In a city, a kid filmed the sky with his phone and posted it online with the words, "Aliens? Really?" Within minutes, memes spread faster than news. In a military base deep underground, Captain Darren Kess got the alert. He was calm, a man used to pressure. He watched the alien message flash on the screen, "Submit, and you will be preserved." He shook his head and said, "Nobody tells us what to do." He gave one order, "Get me every channel, all of them." Moments later, every TV, radio, and phone in the world played his voice. "This is Captain Darren Kess. We don't know who you are, but you made a mistake. You came here thinking we were weak. You thought we wouldn't fight. You were wrong." People listened. They stood up, turned on their lights, called their friends. The world, for the first time, felt like one thing. Above, the Vethari ships floated, silent and sure. They did not see the missiles hidden in the ground. They did not know about the drones in the sea. They did not understand what it meant to face humanity when it stands together. The invasion had just begun, but Earth was already fighting back. The Vethari expected fear. They thought cities would fall into chaos, that governments would beg for peace, that people would run and hide. But Earth did none of those things. Instead, laughter filled the air. A video of a teenager on a dirt bike flipping off the sky played on phones everywhere. In Kansas, a farmer fired up his tractor and said, "Ain't scared of no space cowboys." Back in the command center, Captain Darren Kess watched the reports come in. He smiled. "They don't get it, do they?" The aliens fired their first weapon, a strong energy pulse meant to knock out all communication on Earth. It hit the atmosphere and failed. Most of the world's networks were already protected. Old military tricks, backup lines, underground wires. The internet stayed alive. Phones kept working, TVs kept playing. "They thought we'd go dark," said Jason Cole, a commander at the defense base. "We've been ready for worse than this." Then Earth struck back. From hidden silos in Montana, long rockets rose into the sky. Submarines deep in the Pacific fired without surfacing. Fast, heavy rods of metal fell from space at incredible speed. They hit the outer alien ships like hammers from above. One by one, the dark vessels exploded in silent flashes of light. The Vethari were shocked. Their screens filled with red warnings. Ships lost, systems failing. No one had ever fought back this fast. On the main ship, their leader, Voral, stood frozen. "This is not possible," he said. "Their technology is behind ours." But he was wrong. Earth was not ahead in one thing. It was strong in many. Drones, weapons, smart people, fast plans, and most of all, it had millions of people who refused to give up. Darren Kess spoke again on every channel.
You watched us for centuries. You studied our wars, our movies, our mistakes. But you never saw what makes us strong. We don't quit. We fix things. We fight together. In a lab, a scientist named Nina Baxter worked with a team sending new signals into the sky. They used old research to block the aliens' next move. In Texas, a group of soldiers and civilians took over a military post and sent drones into the air. The world was not scared, it was angry and ready. The Vathari had planned for everything, but they forgot one thing. Humans don't follow plans. They adapt, they surprise, and when pushed, they hit back harder than anyone expects. The first hour of the invasion was over, and Earth was winning.
The Vathari were in trouble. Their ships were falling, their weapons failed. Still, they had one last plan, a device called the suppression array. It was built to send a wave across the planet, to stop human brains from working. No killing, no fire, just silence. They believed it would end the fight in minutes. But they didn't know about Dr. Nina Baxter. 10 years ago, she studied how signals affect the brain. Her work was meant to help sick people. Now, it was saving the world. She and her team sent out a counter-signal, one that twisted the alien wave and sent it back. When the Vathari turned on their machine, the energy bounced. It hit their own ships. Inside, soldiers dropped to the floor, holding their heads. Their minds were overloaded. The system meant to control humans had broken their own. On the ground, people didn't wait. In Texas, Carla Reed led a group of ex-soldiers and locals. They found an old National Guard base, broke in, and took what they needed. Guns, drones, vehicles. Carla, tough and calm, climbed into a Jeep and said, "Let's go say hello." They drove through the night. Near the border, 3 alien landers had touched down. They were dark, silent, waiting. Carla's team launched small drones with explosives. One by one, the ships blew up, lighting the desert sky. In California, tech workers worked nonstop. They used satellites, phones, even home computers to track the alien signals. They turned everyday tools into weapons. One kid in Denver hacked the alien broadcast and replaced it with an old action movie trailer. In a world, one planet fights back. People laughed, but they also fought. In Ohio, a woman named Linda used her radio to guide pilots to hidden targets. In Florida, fishermen with small boats attacked a landed pod with firebombs. Everywhere, people found ways to help. The Vathari had maps, plans, and rules. Humans had courage, cleverness, and anger. They didn't fight like a machine. They fought like a storm. Wild, fast, and everywhere at once. Darren Kest watched it all from the command center. He said, "They thought we'd break. Instead, we woke up." The aliens were losing. Their fleet was broken. Their leader, Voral, looked at the data and whispered, "They're not just defending. They're enjoying this." And he was right. On the streets, people waved flags. Kids drew pictures of spaceships blowing up. A little girl handed an captured alien a sandwich and said, "Do you like peanut butter?" The third hour of the invasion had begun, and Earth was no longer just fighting. It was winning. The Vathari flagship hung high above the planet, dark and silent, shaped like a curved blade. Inside, their leader, Viral, gave one last order. "Open the rift. We must leave." But it was too late. From the surface, a strange craft rose into space. It was old, painted white and black, with Explorer 7 written on the side. It was a retired space shuttle, once used for science, now packed with weapons and one bold pilot, Gina Lopez. Gina was a test pilot,
tough and calm. She had flown faster than sound, faced engine fires, and landed on runways with no brakes. Now she flew straight at the alien ship, her hands steady on the controls. "Target locked," a voice said in her ear. "You're the only shot." "Then I won't miss," she said. Behind her, Russian scientist Oleg had built a device called a plasma destabilizer. It was never meant for war. It was made to control energy in power plants. But now it was set to blow up the alien core from within. The shuttle moved fast. Alien guns fired, but Gina dodged. She flew through smoke and wreckage of their own ships. Alarms beeped, heat rose, but she kept going. "Almost there," she whispered. Then, impact. The shuttle crashed into the side of the flagship. Metal tore. Fire burst in the silence of space. The destabilizer activated. A bright wave spread through the ship's heart. Systems failed. Power died. Then, a huge explosion lit the sky. Krith's vengeance was gone. On Earth, people looked up. A new light shone for a few seconds, brighter than the moon. Then it faded. Cheers broke out in cities, towns, and villages. People hugged, cried, laughed. In the Pacific, U.S. Navy ships waited. They knew the aliens might try to run. When the surviving ships opened rifts to escape, American, Chinese, and European missiles were already there. One by one, the fleeing ships were hit and destroyed. On the ground, Bobby, a young soldier from Mississippi, stood guard over a captured alien. The tall, silver-eyed being looked weak, scared. Bobby just grinned and said, "Y'all should have stayed home." A little girl nearby held a sandwich. "Mr. Alien, want a bite?" The war had lasted less than 3 hours. No long battles, no surrender, just a fast, hard strike from a planet that refused to break. In New York, people danced in the streets. In Tokyo, fireworks lit the sky. In Africa, villages sang songs of victory. They didn't win because they were the strongest. They won because they were many, because they thought fast, because they helped each other. And above, the last alien signal faded into silence. Earth had spoken, and it said no.
The world did not burn. There were no ruins, no fear, no silence. Instead, there was music, light, and voices full of hope. The war had lasted less than 3 hours, and now life moved forward. In cities and towns, people came outside. They waved flags, hugged strangers, and danced in the streets. A man in New York played saxophone on a rooftop, the sound floating over the crowd. In Sydney, kids painted a mural of a spaceship blowing up with the words, "Not today." Leaders from every country met in Geneva. They did not argue. They stood together. Captain Darren Kess walked to the front, still in his uniform, tired but proud. Cameras rolled, the world watched. He looked into the lens and said, "They came here thinking we were weak. They thought centuries of planning would beat us. But they forgot one thing. We've spent centuries preparing too, not just for war, but for each other." People clapped. Some cried. A young girl in the front row held a sign that read, "Thank you, Earth." Scientists studied the alien ships that had fallen, not to build weapons, but to learn. Schools began teaching the story in class. Teachers said, "This is what happens when people stand together." In Colorado, Dr. Nina Baxter sat in a quiet lab with a team of engineers. They worked on a message, a simple one, in every language. It would be sent into space not as a threat, but as a warning. "We are here," it said.
We are ready. Come in peace or don't come at all. Carla Reed went back to Texas. She didn't want medals. She helped rebuild a school. Gina Lopez, the pilot, smiled for photos but said, "I just did my job." Bobby, the soldier who guarded the first alien prisoner, gave the being a soda. "You want one? It's cold." The alien nodded slowly. Bobby laughed. "Guess even space guys get thirsty." Years passed. Children grew up knowing the story. They called it the 3-Hour War. History books said it was the day humanity proved it was not alone in courage. No more alien ships ever came. Maybe they heard the message. Maybe they saw what happened and stayed away. Earth kept living, kept building, kept hoping. And every year, on that same Tuesday morning, people looked up at the sky, not in fear, but in pride. Because they knew, if anyone ever came again, Earth would be ready, and it would win again.